Chris from Rufotris Rooted Rockhound challenged some faceters to take a crack at these California gemstones. Specifically, these are quartz from Lake County, California, sometimes called Lake County diamonds. Many have excellent clarity, looking almost like chips of ice. After a preliminary looky-loo, I decided to go with this smaller stone because it had a roughly triangular shape if you squint and stand on your head. Or even better, if we take it to the machine and grind away some sharp points and divots, we've got a stone screaming to be a cushion-cut triangle. Let's get cutting. Here's where the trouble started. Let me lay down a new beat and tell you all about it. The chippiness I noticed at 360 grit didn't quite go away. Either my grit was too coarse, or I opened up pre-existing stress zones because there were multiple areas with new internal fractures that I don't think were present when I started cutting. Sometimes that's the way it goes. With quartz, it's not uncommon. And with more than one problem zone, I decided I need to cut out most of the fractures if possible, and this meant cutting down the pavilion and making the stones smaller. Some fractures persisted, but sometimes there's nothing you can do. You either accept natural flaws or cut a teensy-weensy stone. After cleaning things up with a 600 grit topper, I moved on to my pre-polished lap, which for a while now has been my 3000 grit diamond on copper. It leaves a nice finish that polishes up quick, yet I'm still able to move facets around easily, especially with softer stones like quartz. Here's a real-time cutting of one small facet to take the point off the triangle. With my machine, there's no instrument telling me when to stop. I go by sound and feel and check with a 10 times loop. Although this is as close as you're getting. Just kidding, look, it's all pre-polished at 3000 grit. Only the polish left. Easy peasy. Everything started off smoothly, with the girdle polishing easily in just a few swipes using Alan Lindbergh's cerium oxide lap. But then I started polishing the pavilion, and that's when scratches appeared. Not revealed, but appeared. I'm still not sure I haven't fully decontaminated my lap after the egg incident, despite scrubbing the heck out of this thing with lava soap twice. It's frustrating to have new scratches appear, but quartz is notorious for fouling laps and getting late-stage scratches. I also tried my old standby of 60,000 grit diamond on tin, which polishes just about everything, and was still getting scratches, so I don't think it's just the one lap. In this case, my theory is that the copper lap is to blame, and it's just too hard for quartz. I think it was causing subsurface damage that resulted in small chips at facet junctions, and then those chips broke off and were dragged across the facet surface, creating new scratches. With no end of scratching in sight, I did my best to minimize them and declared victory so I could at least finish a stone for the challenge. Now, with something resembling a polished pavilion, it was time to transfer using hybrid black wax and superglue. Somewhere in here, I grew impatient and tried dressing my 1200 and 600 grit laps with a piece of corundum, but only wound up making them too rough, which left massive scratches. Frustrations mounted, and while pressing down way too hard on the 1200 grit lap to try to buff out those scratches, the inevitable happened, and the wax broke. With all the micro scratches on the pavilion, and the fractures, and the trouble with getting it to cut in at 1200 grit, I was ready to call it done. The silver lining is that it gave me a chance to roughly visualize what the final stone would look like. That might not be half bad if I could get a polish. But this stone went in timeout, and I tried my hand at the larger stone. Cutting it down to size was fast and easy with the trim saw, and then it was just a matter of slapping it on a dop and lowering it to its doom. And by doom, I mean I've had it up to here with Quartz, and I once again snapped the wax during the roughing in stage. No matter, we're still fine. We're just honing our craft here. Let's pop it back on and get cracking, and oh, that's not good. It's fine. It's fine. Just slap some more super glue and paper towels on the dop and make a solid column, and yeah, you guessed it. Okay, enough with that. Back to the original stone. At this point, I just wanted to finish something. I did a reasonable job realigning the stone to the right axes, and since my girdle was thick enough, it allowed me to recut all the facets at 600 grit using the one zone on the lap that didn't cause massive scratches. Sorry, clear quartz is just as annoying to film as it is to cut, so apologies for the focus issues here. There's still scratches, but that's to be expected at 600 grit. This time, I tested my theory by avoiding the copper lap altogether and used Allen's dual band lap, which has a 1200 grit resin outer band and a cerium oxide inner band. These laps are softer than copper and shouldn't create internal strain issues. The main sacrifice is that you can get more rounded edges of facets with soft laps, which I did get here on some of my facets that were only separated by 1 index and less than 1 degree. I'll say I wasn't originally sold on dual band laps, but for some materials it works great. I was able to cut a tier of facets on the 1200 grit and then jump right into cerium oxide to polish it without needing to change angles and refine the facets later. It does take practice to stop cutting on the 1200 with enough room to polish and not overcut. I certainly did that here and there, but this stone has enough problems where it doesn't really matter at this point. It is polished to a decent level. Cerium is great for quartz, and like I thought, by avoiding the copper, I stopped getting self-scratching. There you have it. That's all it takes to make a Lake County diamond go from rough to slightly less rough. I'm interested to see what the other folks do with this quartz, and hopefully everybody has an easier time than I did with it. Check out this video where Chris showcases everybody's cut, and I'll have links in the description to the other videos from creators that tackled this Lake County Quartz challenge. This is my entry, a 1.85 carat trillion cut that, in a shocking twist, I designed myself for this challenge. I find low refractive index materials like quartz and sunstone work best in odd-numbered symmetries like 3 and 7-fold. Now, I'm no design expert, but it's fun to throw some facets on a chunk in Gem Cut Studio and just see how it performs. After some false starts designing from the pavilion up, I switched and designed from the table down, and settled on this triangles in triangles design, which looked like it had fun skinny bands of light and dark in the render. I think it takes advantage of the icy look of the quartz, and as thanks for throwing down the gauntlet, I've named it Rufotrill in honor of Chris. Thanks for the challenge. I've sent him the stone and the diagram with some notes from my daughter. Everyone else is welcome to cut this design, or better yet, improve on it and make it your own. Will you accept that challenge?